Hi everyone, this is your favorite friend Jay or Jaylan Salah, as you formerly know her, film critic at Geek Vibes Nation and In Session Film. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing director Julie Wyman on her new documentary, The Tallest Dwarf, about her journey to find her place in the little people community, but also her quest to find herself, seek identity, and exploration. Julie, I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited too.
Okay, the first scene, there's a beautiful choreographed scene, which you started the documentary with. I don't know what was the creative choice behind that scene because it's such a great way to get us inside the world of this film.
Oh, thank you so much. We start dancing, and it's a group of little people, including me, all moving in sync and really just following each other. And so we see these, bodies that are all different proportions and sizes moving, finding our kind of, that exercise is called limb liberation, as you later maybe pick up in the film. Um, this is a film about bodies, and it's also a film about beauty. And that image to me, when we did those movement exercises and filmed them, it felt like I've arrived. It was a 10-year process of filming, and those moments were the ones that crystallized what I want this film to do, which is create a possibility of beauty that is bodies of all sizes being shown and bringing ourselves to be seen and being seen in the full sense of who we are.
One of the parts that I really enjoyed in this film was your conversation with your parents. As we grow older, we discovered that some of the things they told us are kind of like fables or lies or whatever. Because I'm a short woman, like I'm 4 feet 11. So I'm
Oh,
really
well,
average short. And my mom would always
right.
tell me, girls are short, men are tall. You will find everyone around you the same height. And I was like the shortest girl in class, in college, etc. So I love this idea of us kind of like deconstructing what our parents taught us in this safe, kind of like domestic environment. So, how did you find recording these scenes? And I love that you made them so that other people would relate on different levels, what we are being told about our minds,
Mm.
about our difference, about being what we thought weird. So, I want to know, how did you get these conversations and what brought you to the idea that I want to question my parents first?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had inherited my physique from my dad. So that's a part of why the film starts after the dance with me and my parents talking. And they are the ones that witnessed my body growing and becoming myself, right? And there was actually always a lot of acceptance of we did dance a lot as a family together, which I thought every family did, but I learned later, no, not really.
Same.
So, does your
Exactly.
family dance together?
We're like
Yeah,
a weird artistic family. I thought everyone was like that, and then I grew up and
yeah,
realized, oh, okay, no, people are boring actually.
right. So there was always a sense of like physical comfort together, and there was also a sense of worry about my body and my family. Um, I felt it very strongly. Also felt it outside of my family, like from the world, from coaches, teachers, every magazine pages. Um, so the film, starts with me, an adult going to my parents to kind of ask them, how do you understand this? How did you see my body? Because it's been a life, I didn't say this in the film, but it's been my lifetime kind of question. Making sense of how am I different and what is this called? And are there other people beyond us, me and my dad, And so what's funny in the film and in that conversation is that they contradict themselves a lot. Like, first, they're contradicting my memory. Their memory of it is very different than they're like, they don't even remember initially ever thinking anything about my body being unusual. But as the conversations go on and the film goes on, and check in with my sister, it's like, no, actually, they did care about this. And there were lots of instances over the course of my life, which for me were huge. and for them apparently didn't weren't as formative, right? Um,
Definitely.
so yeah, but it's interesting too because I've talked to, a lot of little people friends who are in the film or have seen it are like, this is generational because my parents' generation with a disability or difference, you just want to not tell anyone about it. You want to pretend it's not there, right? That's the idea is maybe it'll go away if we just ignore it.
Exactly.
And I feel like, my generation or people younger than me are more like, no, this is important to like own and acknowledge. And it actually doesn't, we don't have to stand for this hierarchy that we're less than because of it, because I think in their mind and people older than them too probably see it as like this if we admit there's a disability or a difference here, it means your life is over. There's no hope for you. It closes all these doors, when in fact it doesn't have to do that at all. And for me, it was actually very affirming learning that I had a form of dwarfism, but it came late in life. So yeah.
Yes, yes.
But they
Okay.
still don't really my mom still doesn't completely understand why that's important to me.
It's the
So,
same with my ADHD and autism. Kind of like my mom is still not convinced I have it. So I was like diagnosed later. And I know that for younger generations, it's different. They have all this awareness at a younger age, and parents are more open. But I know exactly what you mean about our parents and probably the parents before us. They really don't understand that. This is why it felt very refreshing to me to see someone acknowledge this on film, the generational clash between, yes, you have to accept that we know something is different, but we also don't have to be on a pedestal and judged about it or whatever. But you guys have to acknowledge that you didn't know that. So I totally
right.
connected to that part.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's funny how it sort of seems like even just getting a diagnosis for me would have only made medical sense if I were having kids, which I did not. Like to a in a doctor's mind or a parent or my parents' mind, right? Why would you need to know unless you were going to pass this on? But I'm like, no, I need to know because I need to know for myself
For
and
me,
know what has like I've gotten bullied about this and it's been a thing, through my life. So actually I need to just know for my own, like you said, identity and sense of understanding. Am I imagining a difference or is it real? And so knowing it's real and what it is was really important. And that there's other people like me.
100%. What I love, Julie, about this film is that when we have more films, women telling stories, storytelling about women, and it's diverse, a variety of topics, we open more opportunities for other women to come forward and tell their stories. So I want to know, how do you see your film? You're talking about your very unique experience, but then another woman might feel encouraged to talk about her unique experience, probably in a different realm. How do you see your film does that to help other women be brave and come forward about themselves?
I mean, you just put your finger on what I think is one of my biggest goals and drives to make this work is to open possibilities for other people to other filmmakers or just people trying to answer their own personal questions but also especially to share them, right? So um, I talked about like my sense of maybe having dwarfism as like it has a shimmery quality, like I didn't quite know if it was real or not, but on some level I knew it was, but I couldn't grab it. And I know there's lots of people out there that have other kinds of ways of being in between, right? Having an identity that they're not quite sure if they can claim, or having just a completely different experience that no one's quite had or explained to them before that they haven't seen a model for. And so I guess I'm hoping that by telling this kind of unusual, quirky, in between the categories kind of story, it helps other people who fall in between have the um, courage and also, interest, like curiosity and uh, yeah, I guess guts to go ahead and do that themselves. Yeah, that would be my dream if that even helped one person in that way.
Definitely. What I love is you say that this project took 10 years of your life. When did it start? Like, when did you realize, oh, this will be a film? This will be a documentary?
Yeah. Well, the first things I filmed are some of the early stuff in the film where my dad and I are like measuring ourselves. I wanted to, like you see, sort of start with my family and understand the body my dad passed on to me. So I knew it started as a film, but it started after making other films about other people whose bodies don't fit in different ways. And I finally, after finishing my last feature, which came out like 12 years ago, I was like, it's time to look at my own story and tell it. And I thought at first it was just going to be a short about my family, my body, my dad, and me. And then I thought, well, maybe I should try going to that Little People of America place, and maybe I should see if there's a medical diagnosis here. And then it opened into a much bigger story and situation as soon as I set foot into Little People of America, and also learned more about what the culture, the community was facing in terms of both a past being seen from the outside, being put on display, but a future of an idea that there's medicine that might diminish the number of, like change the way that little people's bodies look in the future. So yeah. It went from a very personal question to a more cultural one that I felt connected to. And that's when it felt like it was a feature film. That was probably a couple years in.
I believe that artists and creatives are vulnerable and they personally kind of like show their vulnerability on purpose and kind of like expose parts of themselves that a normal person wouldn't. So this is why they are changers. They change and they make a change in the world. So what was the most vulnerable moment for you? Was it a personal moment or seeing other people talk about themselves? And then you realized, wow, vulnerability just creates this bridge between different people.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, I felt like so vulnerable just being like with this idea of making a film within the little people community and kind of both I felt vulnerable. It felt dangerous and kind of charged. Like I knew it was asking a lot to try to film with people who have been put on display. And I also knew it was awkward and really something really uncomfortable about me as a taller person stepping into this community and saying, "Hi, am I one of you?" Like it's super awkward. It's super like, I think my biggest fear was overstepping, like taking up, I mean, honestly, taking up too much space and or being out of proportion with my questions in terms of these in relation to bigger, more important questions than my own body, right? But um yeah, what I came to over a long time was understanding that me putting my real questions on the line and being honest and clear about what I was trying to do both opened the door to community, but it also was the way to tell this film's story. Like I definitely tried versions where you mostly learn about the other people and less about me. And that without my perspective and personal questions, it was just like any other documentary reality show looking at little people from the outside, right? But when I was there invested with my own questions that were vulnerable in and of themselves, then it sort of felt like there was a reason for the camera to be there.
As I'm really interested in you and your artistic journey, I want to know why did you pick film for you as a person
Mm.
to express, to self-express? Because there is always a moment where you realize, yes, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a poet, I want to be whatever. Why did you choose film as a medium?
Film is big. Film is, cinema is this gorgeous form that like daunts us. Like we all are kind of the same size when we're sitting in the chairs. I mean, sometimes those chairs don't fit all of us in the same way, but the idea being there's this image that's so much bigger than us. It's almost like the cathedral of our time in a
It's
certain
true.
way. there's a certain sacredness to it if you just think about the scale, and it feels important, in a way that it shapes how, I don't know, I just felt the power of film and it and the beauty of it, and it felt like, well, I want to go in there and bring some new things that don't exist here yet, in this big, big holy image world. And so that just was the draw, I think, was like seeing images projected at big scales that let us really also take in the beauty and the whole humanity of the people we're seeing.
So, when you were first introduced to the little people community and when you discovered them, what were the things that stuck with you the most? Your journey with discovering all people, different people from all over America, but then they're united by one thing. So, what was the thing that most resonated with you or that you learned and affected you so much?
I mean, there's a connection that I have with my friends and community, my little people community, that um, there's an unspoken connection, things that don't have to be explained. There's a shared experience of things not the world not fitting our bodies, and um, being looked at, gawked at in a certain way, being not able or assumed not able to do certain activities, even if you can do them. So I carried that with me for a long time on my own. And when I found a community where that's just the given, the shared, um, it felt amazing to connect and not feel alone anymore in that, right? To know, because it does, first of all, you understand, oh, it's the world, the social world that makes us feel this way. But also, you're like, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way. So finding what felt like such a private, separated, isolated experience, like knowing there was connection. I mean, I also think, like any like community there, it's it's pretty, there's a lot of kinds of dwarfism. Every kind of person, racially, politically, people who are really into sports, people who are really into, you know um whatever, everything, it's a microcosm of our bigger world. But the place I found that I connected really a lot, and that you see in the film a lot, is artists, and performing artists, especially. And so, you know, people who, like me, are interested in kind of working within the belly of the beast to change the stories we see and the way that we're understood in the world.
So, what was the most difficult scene for you to shoot and the most enjoyable one?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's see. That's difficult. It was pretty difficult to film some of the stuff that involves like the medical treatment. There's a conference that's about tr medical treatments for dwarfism. And I also filmed with one person at her doctor's office she had gone through a surgery called limb lengthening. So those two environments were pretty loaded for me. Um, and in the sense that, I think I politically am just like, I made the physical choice to, like, I wouldn't want to do a treatment like that. And I also want bodies like ours to exist. But stepping into those worlds where people have made choices to, go through um, interventions, and I get that those are their choices to make, and it's the right thing for them if they choose that. But being in that territory and listening to how it's talked in those worlds was pretty tense, I'd say, for me. I was
And
kind of confronted with some of the ideas that, I mean, I think it was challenging in two ways. One, because I have to kind of go beyond my my inclination to oppose this and be like, really see, well, people are making these choices and give them their autonomy, their agency to do that. And then also understand there is what we, some ableism, some kind of like idea that it's better to change the individual than society that infiltrates like medical language. And so I think those were the hardest things to film.
And the most enjoyable, like things that
And
you
most
really enjoy.
enjoyable
Yeah.
is what you put your finger on at the very beginning of our talk, like the dance and that whole time we spent in that studio space, especially the workshopping, the writing, the moving, the improvising. That to me felt like that's it. Like that's what I want this project to do is for, I mean, both personally, like connecting and creating with a group of people, but also creating images of that happening and seeing this reality of, us as little people telling our own stories, bringing our own bodies to the screen, like seeing the beauty of us individually and together. Like it was a joy to film all of that. Like each day I was like so, there was a lot to do, but I think I really did enjoy it in the moment too.
Oh, Julie, you are so inspiring. This film is like a world open to me. I feel like you're a very
Oh,
brave and strong woman and also very creative, someone I look up to. I can't wait for everyone to watch this film. Thank you so much for talking to me. Seriously, it was a great
thank you so
conversation.
much. I really appreciate your questions and your perception. You got it, and that means so much to me. And I'm excited to have you share this too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.